Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, great.
There we go.
Hi, Steve. There we go. Welcome.
Should I start my video, or we're just going to do it as a straight PowerPoint?
No, we're going to do it as a straight PowerPoint. We're
Okay.
just waiting for Michael to arrive, and then we've got a few attendees, so we'll get started as soon as he gets here. Thanks for joining us today.
Cool. Yeah. So we're doing this as a live webinar, or is it going to be recorded, or both?
Both.
Okay.
So we have
Great.
live attendees that are joining us today, and then this will be recorded and shared with my list and on social.
And just so you know, your audio is a little bit kind of in the background. It sounds like you're in an echoey room. I don't know if there's a way for you to get closer to a mic or adjust that, but it's a little bit.
A little bit better.
Pardon? Yeah.
Much better.
I don't know if you can use a headset or something, but anyway, it'll be fine if that's all you have.
Yeah, the mic was a little far away from my face. I think that's better.
I'm just going to mute out until we start.
Yeah, great.
By the way, the slides look beautiful, Chelsea. Well done on that.
Thank you. It's easy when your products are gorgeous.
Pardon me?
It's easy when your products are gorgeous.
Yeah, gosh, it's hard for me to understand what you're saying because of the mic you're using, Chelsea. I don't know if you can get on a headset or plug in a pair of headphones or something. It's really hard. It's very tingy.
I'm going to switch.
Better, Dave?
Oh my God, that's miles better. So much better.
Good.
Wow.
Good.
Well, by the way, what did you switch? You switched to headphones, or?
I switched to phone.
Oh yeah, that's
as
like
opposed to computer.
that's on another planet better. Yeah.
Good. Thank you for telling me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually just going to call Michael real quick, and we'll get started.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Hey, Chelsea, do we have some live guests that are joining us today?
Yes, there we go, Michael. All right, fantastic. And Michael's just getting logged in. Should hear him in a moment.
Can you hear me?
And to our attendees, yes. Hi, Michael. All right. And to our attendees, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I have on the line with me today Dave Ahrens, the co-founder and CEO of the Unbundled Attorney, and Michael Chasin, the founder and CEO of Lexicata. So welcome to everyone who's on the line with us this afternoon and who will be listening to this presentation via recording on the site long after our initial recording today. So thank you to everybody for taking an interest in this topic. I'm going to kick things off and we're going to go through some housekeeping notes here. The title of today's session is How to Unlock and Automate a High Value Revenue Stream for Your Law Firm. And just to give you a little bit of background on the site and the type of education that we provide, this webinar is brought to you because Lex Tech Review is a place where we like to help you translate technology as to how it can be used in the law firm setting, how you can make money by implementing technology, and then also provide valuable education around new products and services that you might not be aware of. So check back for regular reviews and webinars like the one that we're providing today. A little bit of background on myself. I'm a solo small law firm technology specialist. I regularly write and have a book coming out for the ABA. So my personal passion is to learn about new technologies and services like the ones that we're going to be talking about on today's webinar, and then share those with you so that you can get your questions answered or discover products that are going to help you grow your business. My guests today are Dave Ahrens, co-founder and CEO of the Unbundled Attorney, who originally is from Vancouver, British Columbia, and worked with various legal access, with a legal access plan company in the area of family law, where he discovered this need for what has become the product Unbundled Attorney today. I had the pleasure of speaking with Dave it was a month ago, and about the mission behind why he built the Unbundled Attorney and the overall plan for how the organization is also giving back to the community, which I find to be really, really interesting and powerful. So Dave, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, really happy to be here. So thanks for creating the space to talk more about unbundled services and how attorneys can start to offer these in their practice and grow their practice as a result.
Welcome. And then we have Michael Chasin. Michael and I first met way back when I was at the Chicago Bar Association when the Lexicata project was in its infancy. Previous to that, Michael created LawKick during his second year of law school. He holds a JD MBA from Loyola Marymount University. And so this isn't his first rodeo with Lexicata. He's got a couple products under his belt, and I'm excited to share some of the features that not a lot of people know about with the Lexicata solution and how it can dramatically improve your conversion rates and just in general streamline the intake and client retention process. So Michael, thank you as well for your time today.
Thanks, Chelsea. Always a pleasure.
Okay, so with that, we're going to jump right in. And what I really want to focus on in covering these two products and services, or the combination of the two, is the recent integration between Lexicata and the Unbundled Attorney. I think that it's a very exciting combination of products because there's two parts of, in a law firm, actually generating revenue. It's sourcing where those potential clients are going to come from, but then also the delivery and the execution. And oftentimes the lawyer is so tied up and just in the weeds as far as the execution is concerned that it's a process that is fairly haphazard. So go and get the work and then you deliver the work, and you go and get the work and you deliver the work. So the Unbundled Attorney Maybe if you can give us some background, Dave, on what really lead generation with a purpose means to you, and why you created this product, and a little bit more about what it does.
Yeah, absolutely. So lead generation, that aspect of it is just, we use advanced search marketing techniques to attract clients that are looking to retain an attorney. They're going online, they're searching, they're finding our websites, and want to actively retain a lawyer for custody, family law, immigration, estate planning case. We are capturing those clients and then delivering them to the attorney that handles that area of law in the jurisdiction they're needing help in. So as an attorney, you receive that as a lead, which is the client's contact information, name, email address, phone number, and a description of the type of case that they are working on. And you receive leads only in the practice area you handle. So if you're a Chicago lawyer handling a lead clients in Cook County, DuPage, and Will, you would only receive lead inquiries from clients that need help with family law in those 3 counties. And you receive those leads on a daily basis and also in real time, which means as soon as the person requests help, you're notified via email, text message, and also the lead is posted to our app. And with our new integration with Lexdicata, that lead is posted in real time also into a Lexicata account, which will be your account if you have Lexicata set up. So that's essentially lead generation. So this is new clients, coming into your office every day that you're able to contact, connect with, and then meet with and retain to provide the services you provide on a regular basis. The second component with the purpose is the aspect that we can talk a little bit more about today, which is we exclusively work with attorneys that offer unbundled legal services. And if you're not familiar with the term, unbundled just means it's attorneys being willing to limit the scope of their involvement in a case down to specific agreed upon tasks. So rather than requiring, the traditional way of acquiring cases, you quote them $3,000 to $5,000 up front, they pay you an upfront retainer, and then you bill against that retainer on an hourly basis. This isn't a scenario in which you might handle, specific parts of the case under a flat rate or hour by hour in order to make your services more affordable to the average family. And one of the challenges we've had in the last 10 years and even the last 30, 40 years is a significant and dramatic increase in the amount of people that are filing pro se. We went from about 1% 40 years ago. Today, it's about 70%. So over 3/4 of the clients filing in the family courts, around 3/4, are going unrepresented. And one of the real challenges and real underlying reasons for that is people just simply cannot afford $3,000 to $5,000 up front. And they also, are wary about working with attorneys a lot more nowadays because of the internet, with attorneys that aren't transparent about exactly what things are going to cost. So this is a way for you to be able to offer services that are much more inclined to be able to fit people's budgets. Typically, unbundled services range somewhere between $500 to $1,500, depending on the case and the type of unbundled option you offer. Unbundled services could be, preparing a client's document, meeting with them for a 1-hour coaching session, reviewing their paperwork and correcting it, or you might prepare it for them, deliver it to the client. You might prepare a file and then maybe enter a limited appearance. There's a lot of different levels of service you can provide, but it's basically providing things, one task at a time or one phase at a time. There's some other options that our unbundled attorneys offer for full representation to make it more flexible, and I can talk more about that as well. But that purpose side is we've created an organization and a network of attorneys all throughout the United States that are offering these options, these unbundled services, and we find that, as a result, a tremendous amount of more clients are being able to get served and receive quality legal care from compassionate attorneys like yourself as a result of that, simply because, the cost barriers are not the same as a traditional law firm. And so as a result, we're able to really make a significant shift in the affordability of legal services in this country. We're working on cooperatively building out an entire network of attorneys all throughout the country, and then raising awareness in the public about how these services can help them access quality legal care at a price that the average family can afford.
Great, thank you. And just a few questions for you on that. The access to justice gap is something that we, hear a lot about in bar association discussions and just in the general legal community. And so the unbundled attorney services are particularly, attractive and interesting to me because there's also a need for solo lawyers who are just starting their practice for business. You know, they're not very aware as to how to market their law firm, or they don't have the time to do so, or they don't have, you know, that great of a marketing budget. So it seems like a great marriage. Historically, however, attorneys have typically shied away from this area of law because they're afraid, or this type of client, because they're afraid that they're actually going to be losing money on those cases, or that they won't, you know, be able to service them because they don't have the processes in place, which we'll get into a little bit more when we talk about the integration with Lexicata. So can you touch on, I've put a few interview questions for you together on this screen. Let's start off with, you know, why is your product a great service for solo and small law firms, or maybe can you speak to some of the success stories that you've seen?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, certainly for attorneys starting out, definitely, you know, a lot of times firms build up a reputation, they get, you know, get known in their community through years and years and years of practice, and years and years and years of servicing clients, and those clients that, excuse me, then being ambassadors for the services they provide and referring them to their friends and families and neighbors, referring their friends and family neighbors to the firm. Gradually, a lot of firms can build up this great, you know, funnel of third-party referrals, you know, and then of course you have like that country club, you know, model where they're, you know, getting these, you know, high net worth cases. So that's networking, and that's a very long play that nowadays actually is not as strong of a source, simply because there's, you know, we've had such a big market shift in the way people access legal services and what they can afford. So, but that takes a long time. And so for new attorneys that are just getting their feet wet or getting up and running, lead generation is a really powerful tool to be able to launch your practice, you know, from the get-go. I mean, you can sign up with Unbundled Attorney from day one and receive leads that next day. You know, clients that are contacting you, you've been connected with, that, you know, actively seeking a lawyer to help them with a divorce custody case, and get, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, sometimes 10 leads a week, if not even more, depending on the region you serve, you know, with a snap of a button, you know, just by investing in our lead generation services. So it's a really powerful, very real way of generating clients for your practice right away. And so that's very attractive for new attorneys, solo and small firms alike, of course. I think a lot of our solo and small firms, we work majority with solo and small firms because they tend to be more interested and more willing and more adaptable to a marketplace. If you've got a firm with, you know, 20 lawyers, 30 lawyers, and you're like, you know, you learn about unbundled services, the market changes. It's kind of like a cruise ship. It just takes a while to kind of reset the course. Whereas a solo lawyer can go, hey, you know, that really makes sense. I can go ahead and adjust my fees, start offering this, you know, flat rate, $500 unbundled service, you know, for document preparation, document review at $250, limited appearance and preparation at $1,000, and immediately adapt that. And you don't have, you know, 3 higher ups to run through and then a whole new system to develop. You can do it on the fly. And a lot of times, especially with lead generation, clients want to speak with the attorney very early in the prospect process, if not having the attorney calling the leads themselves. And so a lot of big firms, you know, that's just not their policy. They got gatekeepers, they want to do qualification, and so they're not really well adapted to this type of lead generation model in order to make it work. And then from a standpoint of making it profitable, we've shared a lot on our podcast as far as how attorneys are being able to, you know, deliver unbundled services. But a lot of people, attorneys might go, oh, well, $500, $1,000, you know, that's pennies here and there, right? But the reality is that, you know, if you look at the actual delivery of the service, a $500 document might take a traditional firm 2 or 3 hours to get out the door, whereas an unbundled service attorney can deliver that document in an hour or less of attorney time, or an hour, including the consult, enrollment, you know, getting the documents out the door, because they're integrated with, you know, a powerful platform like Lexicata, where the intake is seamless. The client completes all the intake forms himself online with the click of a button. All that flows right into Lexicata. They complete the enrollment with the click of a link from LawPay, for example, if they're using a payment processing platform like that. All their data then flows right into Clio. The record's already created. All the notes and everything that's gone into that case is right there. That data then can auto-populate right into the forms, so it doesn't have to be data entered again. And then a paralegal can basically just overview that, draft the questionnaire that the client provided you, you know, just by giving a breakdown of the case. You can draft that into a written argument, give it over to the attorney. Attorney takes a look, makes sure everything looks clean, talks to the client, delivers it to them, and gets that process done in an hour, hour and a half. And so if you look at the effective hourly rate, traditionally a $500 deal, wouldn't be worth it for a big firm because it takes them 2 to 3 hours to get that done. But if attorneys start to integrate technology and a streamlined system of how to get these tasks, these flat rate unbundled tasks out the door, in the example I just gave, that attorney just made an effective hourly rate of his time of roughly $400 to $500 an hour of his own personal time when you deduct the time for if you have a paralegal helping you with, drafting and so forth. So there's a real opportunity here when you start looking at that. If that was just a one-off, that would work well just in of itself. But there's such a high volume of clients that would, especially if you're fueled by our lead generation, we have an enormous amount of leads available in many, many jurisdictions of clients that would really just be so grateful to be able to have an opportunity to work with an attorney for $500, $1,500. So what used to be a high volume, there's a lot of clients that need services at that range, but used to be low value in the sense that attorneys would look at that and go, well, I'm not making very much money on that, I don't want to do it. Now all of a sudden with the integration of technology, a little bit of education on the ways in which the different types of options they can offer, attorneys can offer to meet that need and do it as a flat rate and develop some efficiency in the firm, and then integrate the technology that we've just integrated with Lexicata and with Clio and with document automation software. Now all of a sudden these tasks can get done much faster. And so that what used to be low value work is now high volume, high value. And so this is why, so many of our attorneys that we're working with, a lot of attorneys are struggling, because the markets are shifting. Our attorneys are really, growing extremely fast. We're really excited about this trend because they've been able to adapt their firm in order to service these clients very profitably.
And a follow-up question to that, and thank you for the great explanation, is how do you educate consumers so that, when they're arriving and completing their case information and their contact information, which coming from experience I've had in the lead generation space, is they're also invested. So, and now I've given you some very personal details about my case. I've given you my contact information, and there is an expectation that happens when they submit that form that they're going to be contacted by an attorney. So this is by no means a cold lead. This is someone who has, provided details. How are you educating them up until the point of form submission, and how do you explain what unbundled services mean to the consumer who's requesting help?
Well, that really, the key word is education, right? We are educating them. That in traditional lead generation companies in the past, it would usually just be a capture form, talk to a lawyer, and then some questions, and they would have a question at the bottom that says, typical attorney fees could be $2,000. How do you plan on financing your case? And that would just be a qualifying criteria. But there really isn't any education other than just saying, okay, this is what, you can connect with an attorney that, handles family law in your region today, and get your case resolved. So there really isn't any education about unbundled services. So really we gear all of our websites and all of our content to explain the concept of what unbundled legal services is, that this is not a cheap legal option. It's not like, pro bono or low bono or something. It's an attorney that's being flexible in the way they're adapting the service options to you and your needs in order to make the services cost less upfront, right? And so we're explaining, and we're being also not only educating, but we're also being transparent. And so we're transparently sharing, okay, this is what unbundled legal services is. This is how it differs from traditional representation. This is why it costs less, and here's what it costs. We typically tell our clients that if their case qualifies for unbundled, and not every case is a fit, to be unbundled. Sometimes you have scenarios in which you really just need to offer full representation. But if it's an unbundled service, it's going to be somewhere between $500 and $1,500. You may be as low as that. And then if you need full representation, it's going to be greater than $1,500, generally speaking. And in order to do that, we use content on the site, explaining it in written format. We also have, I don't know if you guys have ever seen a whiteboard video where you have someone drawing on the whiteboard with a pen, and there's a voiceover explaining unbundled legal services and how it works. So we have a whiteboard animation video that explains the concept and shows the fees and how much it would be more if it's full rep, and if it's unbundled, it's in this range. And again, not every case is a fit. You got to talk to the provider attorney. So by the time that person comes in and you're talking to that client, they've been told at least twice in written format what the cost is going to be of unbundled services, and very transparently. And second, they've also most times have watched the full video and have an understanding of, have a general idea of what unbundled is. And then so that way, by the time you talk to them, it's just a matter of tailoring the services to the client's specific legal needs and their budget, and figuring out what's the best unbundled or full representation solution to be able to offer to that client. And when it comes to full representation, I can certainly touch on that. But one of the things our attorneys do is they, offer a much lower initial retainer. Maybe it's $500,000, $1,500, $2,000, something like that. And then they will usually work out a payment plan with the client where it's, they're paying $100 a week or, $500 a month or whatever the attorney client can fit in their budget. And then, putting that into like a software like LawPay and having that automatically process as they're working with the client. So the person, the average working family just can't come up with 5,000, but they can come up with 500 or 1,000. They can make payments as they're working in their job. So you can offer both options there as well. And so that's kind of the education on our front end, is bringing the concept and the idea of unbundled services to the public, because a lot of attorneys know what unbundled legal services are, but most people have no idea that it's even available. And that's, I think, part of the problem and why we have so many people filing pro se, because if they just knew about the attorneys we work with and the fact they offer unbundled, they would be able to get the guidance they need to proceed more with their case, and maybe even get the representation on a full representation basis if they simply just knew that was aware. So that's really what we're working towards, is creating awareness, creating of the services being available, educating how it works, and then bringing the client and connecting them to attorneys such as yourself that would offer these options to them.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, the last question was, do attorneys who use your service need additional training? And the slide that I have up now, speaks a little bit to your podcast. It's and after this, we actually have a few success stories they can check out on your website. But maybe talk about the podcast and the clients who attend, and what the different topics that you discuss to help them better understand how to be as successful as possible with these types of clients.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, unbundled services isn't that complicated, but it takes a little bit of time just to figure out, okay, what are some typical price points? What are the different options do I want to offer? Do I want to do, document review with some coaching? Do I want to do document preparation? Do I want to do letter, phone call, hour by hour? I'm going to do it as a flat rate. So there's a few kind of things you can figure out as far as the different ways you can offer it. You're going to need to come up with a retainer agreement that reflects the fact that you're providing limited service for this amount, and these are the services you're providing. And then from there, then it's just a matter of learning how to explain this to the client so they understand, okay, well, you have the ability to, work with them according to their financial, their legal needs and their financial budget, and explaining that. So we, anytime an attorney comes to work with us, some of them have done unbundled legal services before, and then we just kind of give them some more ideas and some options, talk about some technology they can implement that's going to make it a lot more streamlined and automated to deliver that service. So that might be one scenario, but also attorneys that have never done unbundled legal services before come to us, and then we have a complete onboarding training where we give you scripts, different pricing options you can offer. We have access to, example contracts that our hundreds of attorneys across the country are using. And then, of course, we have the podcast. And for attorneys that are, new at unbundled legal services and want to start to see what we're talking about as far as this shift in the market, and want to start offering these services either to the leads we can generate for you or to your clients in your practice as an additive component, then you can start plugging into our podcast. And we've interviewed 38, probably 40, almost 40 lawyers now and growing of attorneys that offer unbundled legal services all across the country. They just transparently share, like, well, these are the types of options I offer. This is how I explain it to the client. This is how I deliver them. Here's how it's working. These have been my numbers. This is the technology tools I use. This is the software program. And I unpack everything with them on every single podcast episode, so that, if you're new to this, you can start plugging into the podcast, start getting some ideas. You can talk to us. We give you some suggestions. We also have a 40-minute webinar on our website. You can register and walk. And then on that webinar, I just walk through, okay, here's the options. Here's the price points. Here's how you call leads. Here's the process. I just lay it all out transparently, because whether you work with us or not, the only way we're going to be able to impact access to justice and serve so many more clients is, a lot of lawyers need to start offering this in their practice, whether they're taking leads from us or not. So we've made all this education this resource, the podcast, the webinar, our time as well, our website, available to anyone that is interested in offering these options so that you can learn what you need to learn to start offering these options in your practice right away. I think it just takes, it's one step at a time. You learn a little bit about the pricing, you start offering it here and there, you get better and better. It's just something that you develop and integrate over time.
Great. And then here are just a few success stories that are available. These are actually from the homepage of your website. And if you're interested in the podcast, you can register on the unbundledattorney.com or check out any of these success stories. There's even more of them below these. So you get different practice areas and different stages of where the firm is at, whether it's a solo or has a few employees. There's a good array of success stories that our audience can check out there.
Yeah, they can see it on the website under unbundledattorney.com/podcast on the homepage, or you can just go into your podcast app. Like on the iPhone, it's a purple app that says podcast. You click on that. You do a search for Unbundled Attorney Mastermind. And then you can subscribe and listen to any episode you want right off your mobile device. Or you can also do it through the Google Play Store. Just search for Unbundled Attorney Mastermind or in Stitcher or whatever podcast player you use.
Great. And then next we're going to move into Lexdicata. So Michael, Lexdicata has come a long way and offers some incredible features. If anybody would like to just have like an in-depth kind of walkthrough feature by feature, there's a written review of both the Unbundled Attorney and Lexdicata on lextechreview.com that you can check out, as well as videos on both of the organizations' websites and screenshots and things that you can watch. So lots of resources for you there. But Lexdicata streamlines the client intake and retention process, but also has a lot of tools that would be categorized as a CRM. And I just want to take a second and talk about the difference between case management and a CRM tool, because Lexicata is the only CRM specific software for the legal industry. And so when we talk about a CRM, it is to manage what I like to call the front of the house operations. So the managing of leads, converting them into clients, all the email communication, and basically the sales process that happens within that section of work, where you would call someone a lead, then you would call them a prospect, or that you would move them to an opportunity, and then they become a client. And that, when they become a client, that is really the dividing line between when they're living in Lexicata and when they would move and be managed by a case management platform such as Clio, which I know you're both also integrated with. So Michael, can you give some background on Lexicata and the features that make it so special?
Yeah, for sure. I think what really makes Lexicata special is exactly what you described. Not just what we do, but in the manner in which we do it and the timeline of a case in which we do it. I think there's been like a few transitions that have happened in law over the last 10 years. The first one was a movement into case management, right? Going from paper folders and file cabinets to moving everything into a digital platform. Then from there, the second transition was moving from that digitizing the process into a cloud-based process, right? And bringing everything in the cloud. And there's still a transition in that going around right now. Now I think we've entered, at least with Lexicata and a few other products out there, we've entered the third step or generation of the transition of the legal practice. And I think it's going from just focusing on the case to focusing on the business element of your firm. And that's really what Lexicata does and what makes this so special, right? And like you said, we kind of, I like to describe us as a hybrid between the CRM, contact relationship management, and a client intake. Right? So we're not only going to help you manage your lead or manage your professional relationships and your referral sources, but we're going to help you manage your leads and convert them into new clients as well. And I think that's what makes us so special, is not just focusing on the case, because everyone up until now has been focusing on step 2 of the journey, which is once the case is signed, and nobody was focusing on step 1, which is once you meet a prospective client, what do you do with them? And then just a couple features, you know, to talk about. I know you mentioned like what are some of the features there within. Obviously the CRM elements, right? Like being able to track your referral relationships, so referral sources, be able to follow up with people. And then on the intake side of things, it's going to be things like online intake forms, engagement letter automation, engagement letter signing, streamline the consultation process. So being able to, be able to do automatic reminders for appointments, and really like the follow-ups, right? Being able to have automated emails, correspondences, follow up with prospective clients to get them to come back and hire you if they're not ready to hire you immediately.
Mm-hmm. And you can see the differences right away. I mean, the screenshot that's up right now is the conversion rate right there. And then, you know, matters in progress and total matters added with the revenue all the way to the right. So, I mean, and we'll go through a few more screenshots to showcase how Unbundled Attorney leads come through and that flow until they become a client through Lexicata. Just a few background questions, which you've tackled, but is there a particular reason why this is Lexicata as a tool is very helpful as it relates to the solo and small law firm demographic?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're not just applicable for solo and small firms. We work with a lot of mid-sized firms as well, but particularly our our benefits to a solo and small firm are a little bit different than those to a bigger firm, right? When you're looking at a small firm, there are a couple key things that happen within a small firm. One, low amount of staff to be able to handle admin things. Low amount of time, right? Obviously, the less staff there are, the less time there is in an aggregate sense to be able to get stuff done. And also the less revenue there is typically coming in the door. So a couple of reasons that we help with that type of firm. First one's just gonna be streamlining operations and making things more efficient, right? Time is money, especially if there's some solos who just wanna run a lifestyle practice where they just want to be able to make enough money to live comfortably, but also wanna have a good work-life balance. And that's why they left a bigger firm or a mid-sized firm. So being able to streamline things and make more efficient is really a benefit. Obviously, the CRM element of being able to nurture and build your referral network, right? Like, you know, Dave's Unbundled Attorney is really beneficial for bringing in people, but not all practice areas, you know, are amenable to that. And then also, you know, not everyone wants to buy leads. People sometimes just want to nurture their own on their own. So basically what you can do is you can use our system to nurture those relationships you make at parties, events, conferences, CLEs, also people you knew in law school, maybe colleagues at your old firm, be able to kind of build that referral network over time, right? So as you build your practice over, you know, 1, 2, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, not only building, but you're maintaining. Also, one of the most important things that I think is grossly overlooked by the industry, and the few firms that do focus on this are by far the most successful, is focusing on the client experience. So much of what we talk about on podcasts and webinars and blogs and all these things, anecdotally, we talk about how do we make the lawyer's life better, but very rarely do we sit there and say, how do we make the client's life better? And if anything, if tech has taught us anything over the last few years with systems like Uber and Apple, it's all about the client experience. If you do not wow them with a client experience, you're basically a sitting duck and someone else is going to take that business for you. So being able to allow your clients to sign things online, not have to come in the office, pay online, being able to do e-signature, online intake forms, you know, better email communication and collaboration, that's a big thing. And then obviously just better retention, right? If you have, you know, 100 leads that come through your door in any given year, every single one of those leads are valuable. So being able to use a system to track them and get a higher retention rate or a higher conversion rate, as we call it, not only are you going to eliminate the amount of admin time you have to spend following up with people, but you're actually going to make more money as a result. So those are kind of like, you know, a few of the main things that's something, not just Lexicata you know, in particular, but technology in general is going to help you with, but specifically Lexicata in this case.
Yep. And so this last question, the features that you offer that work particularly well, let's go ahead and jump into the integration. So the theme of today's session is how to increase revenue with a combination of Unbundled Attorney leads and Lexicata. So in preparation for today, I pulled together just a few screens. So you guys are welcome to, you know, jump in and add anywhere where I may have missed the mark here. But you know, leads, first of all, are delivering in real time. So you're getting the full contact details, case description, and those are delivered via email and then right into Lexicata, as well as the option to get a real-time text message on the phone. And when it comes from the Unbundled Attorney into Lexicata, you're receiving all of that information with the ability to take that contact details and start presenting them with intake forms, start sending them email sequences. And here's an example of a Unbundled Attorney lead that has come into the Lexicata inbox. And so can Michael or Dave, whoever would like to tackle this one, kind of talk about that process as it relates to this screen and some of the things that you would be able to do next, which I think we feature an intake form next. So if you'd like to kind of walk us through this
Dave,
process.
why don't you take this one and I'll take the next screen.
Sure. Okay, so now our leads are delivered into our Unbundled Attorney app, and that's the delivery system as well. So we do email, text message, and into our app. But the intake tools and the way in which it can streamline being able to send someone, basically never have to touch your keyboard. I mean, Michael's going to explain this in just a minute, but it's so powerful to be able to respond in real time, have emails go out automatically, to be able to track where each client is in the prospect and retention process. Inevitably, attorneys are going to have clients that kind of fall by the wayside, go uncontacted, or they talk to them, sounds like they want to move forward, but then they need to follow up, and then they just kind of disappear. Like, all those problems are really solved or just massively eliminated or reduced when you use a CRM that manages leads. So what this integration does is it takes our leads and in real time posts it directly into your Lexicata inbox. That inbox is where the 2 is at the top there. And so you click the inbox, you're notified by us, hey, you just got a new lead. You also get an email from Lexicata saying, hey, you just got a new lead. That's an adjustable setting. And then the lead comes right in. And so if you look at this inbox, this is an example of a view of each lead. You've got, Jane Smith, that's the client's name, their email address, the phone number they provided, the source of the lead, because you can not only get leads from us, into Lexicata, you can get leads from other things like Ruby Receptionist and, any other sources you may have, your website, things like that. So they all flow into the inbox, but our leads also post right there in the inbox. So it'll tell you it's an Unbundled Attorney lead. And then, of course, the description of their case, you've got the secondary phone number in the message there, the area of law of the issue, whether it be family law, immigration, state line, whatever it might be, and then the location of the court, which is the county or the city that they submitted the request that they're needing help in. And then the content after that is going to be a description of the case. I need help with getting custody of my child. The father just left, whatever it might be. They're going to give you a description of the type of situation they're going to give you. So you have all that information right there, populates right into Lexicata, and then you click the little check mark there, which is the quick intake button, and then that's going to auto-populate all that information into the intake form, which then allows you to complete the intake, which I think is the next step that Chelsea's going to share here, and Michael can get into, is that quick intake form, which then creates that record in Lexicata. And then you have a lot of things you can do, really powerful things you can do from there to, click a button, send an email, click a button, add them to a task list, click a button. Okay, you made the phone call, here's a template. Click a button, you send them a retainer agreement. Click a button, send an intake form, all those types of pieces. So maybe Michael can share that, but it gives you, all these tools of Lexicata immediately available to every lead that you're receiving.
Yeah, it's a great segue, Dave. I mean, that's essentially one of the huge benefits of Lexicata, obviously, is all that stuff that happens after the lead enters the system. But really the benefit of having a system at all is, I don't know about you, but oftentimes, 82%, so some interesting statistics, like 82, it might even be a little bit higher now. This was like 2016, 82% of the US market owns a smartphone. And now more than 50% of all emails are opened up on mobile devices. So for instance, if you're a lawyer who's getting like a lead through a platform and you look at it on your phone, you're like, okay, I'll answer this when I get out of court in an hour. And then sometimes you mark it as unread, but for some reason your iPhone or Android just kind of marks it as read. And then, that's a potential lead that falls between the cracks. With Lexicata, when that automatically gets pulled in, you have no worry about that ever happening because it's not going to go away unless you tell it to go away. So it's a lot more proactive of a system. But once you get them in the system, like Dave was saying, there's a million different things that you can do. Without having to touch your keyboard and only click around on the mouse, which again isn't just important for the lawyer, but it's important for the admin staff, because there's less likelihood and room for error that can occur by your admin staff when they don't have to type anything. All they have to do is click the selected action. So for instance, if you want to add them into the system and then have a series of 5 emails, like if you're a criminal defense lawyer, that's a really quick hiring process. So maybe you have 3 emails over the next 24 hours that sends out information about, how to fight your DUI, or what are the downfalls of not hiring a lawyer in the first 24 hours, et cetera, et cetera. But what you're looking at in front of you is what we call our online intake forms. Vast majority of firms use intake forms, if not almost every single one, to some capacity. It could be something as simple as contact information, or it could be something more extensive, like, this is a 10-page form about, let's call it family law, what type of assets you have, how many kids do you have, what are your debts and responsibilities, all these different things. And instead of gathering that all by paper or on the phone and paying an admin person to do that, you can collect all that information online, maybe send the form to the client or have your staff member fill it online. And then what that's going to do is automatically do data entry into a Lexicata, which can then get spit out into other systems like a Clio or other case management software. So that's going to be one of the big benefits. And then keep in mind with these forms, these could be filled out on phone, tablet, or computer. So going back to that smartphone statistic, that 82% of people have smartphones and more than 50% of people open it up on mobile devices. If you send an intake form to a client, they might be able to fill it out on their phone at work, or on their phone on the way back from the office on the bus, or maybe in their bed on an iPad or whatever it is. Just making the process really seamless and easy, not only for the firm, but again, going back to that client experience, making it really nice for the client as well.
Yeah, and touching on that, because I've had a chance to really deep dive into the Lexicata product, one of my favorite features in that sequence is the fact that you're presenting a retainer agreement or an engagement letter that's a template in your system that pre-populates with their information, and it requires no sign-in or account necessary for the consumer to actually agree and sign. So it's a beautiful hello sign tool that's built in that is one of the most seamless, really, really just great consumer experiences to have them sign on the line that is dotted and become an actual client. And on the next screen, we have what the dashboard looks like, which, just talking through the process that we've described over the last section of this session, is these columns. So how many are in the stage of being a fresh lead? How many are in the pre-consultation phase? The consult has already been conducted, and then the intake form sent, and then lastly, waiting on the retainer. And speaking to the fact that as a small business owner, or as the attorney inside of a law firm or a solo, keeping track of where everyone is in each one of these processes is oftentimes happening, in their head. And so, having to think like, oh, I should send this person an email today, or I can't remember if I sent them an intake form, and they're going back and looking in their sent mail. And so in just one screen, you can see and manage who is in each one of these stages. And then there's also an email sequence that you can build that's automated. So if someone moves from fresh lead to pre-consultation, you can enroll them in a different set of messages, and you're not doing all of that manually, which comes back to Dave's point about defining and moving towards a higher value rate. When you start to take out the hours of communication necessary in working with a particular client to get them across the finish line, to become to have them sign the retainer and actually have a matter that you're working on that you're being paid for, automating this process and having a tool to manage it is one of the critical components that helps you drive that the value of your hourly rate higher. So any thoughts or comments on this particular screen?
Yeah, I think this is honestly one of the most valuable things that Lexicata users find. Vast majority of people are actually tracking their leads on like pieces of paper, if not at all. I think 25% of people don't track leads at all. Like 50% of them track them on like Excel spreadsheets, and the other 25% use something like a Clio or a case management software, which is clearly not built for managing leads. So this is a really integral part of Lexicata, is being able to see almost like on a flow chart, moving from left to right, where your leads are in the process. And also what's important about this is you figure out where your bottlenecks are. And a lot of people don't realize that they even have bottlenecks, but they exist, right? For some firms, their bottleneck might be the signing process. For other firms, it might be the scheduling of a consultation process. But you'll see these little numbers over here next to each column, 5, 24, 9, 22, 31. You'll see where your leads are getting stuck. And if so, you realize a lot of people are going through consultations and then getting the retainer letter and not signing. That's either you're not doing a good enough job selling them, or you're just making the sign up process too difficult. Whereas if you're not scheduling enough consultations, that means you're either getting crappy leads or you're doing a crappy job of following up with them and actually getting them to come in for a consultation. So you'll actually get some good data statistics to help you learn and improve your process. But most importantly, you'll get a visual dashboard to be able to see where people are at any given time and moving them through. So for instance, if you like this first column with fresh leads, this column should almost always be empty, right? You should always know, these are where my leads start. I don't want anyone in that column. And if they are in that column, that means they haven't been touched. So what's cool though is that you really get to create your own process. So every firm is gonna have a different pipeline. Some of our firms have 15 stages in their pipeline, and some of our firms have 3 stages, depending on how complex, how long, or how difficult of an intake or sales process they have for their firm.
Right. And on the next screen, we have that overall dashboard coming back to the pipeline value, which is the number in the top right-hand corner, where you're actually projecting what the value of every case in the previous screen, so all of these columns added up together, would be, and also your average conversion rate. So when you start to actually focus on this area of your practice and you have leads coming in from the Unbundled Attorney, it starts to get really exciting. And you start to be able to see and project the revenue and the cash flow that you can have coming into your firm. And also, where you can start to move the levers and improve on your processes and focus on closing everybody in the intake form or the waiting on retainer column. So that has been the demo screenshots as far as what we wanted to show both the applications today. Now, this is the last portion of the session. What happens when clients actually retain the firm and they become matters? There's matter options in Lexicata, but where the group has really completed the overall delivery cycle is an integration with Clio that in turn has an integration with LawPay to actually move them over, transfer that matter information. So can you both speak to kind of how that closes the loop all the way from becoming a matter in Lexicata and then closing it out and actually accepting payment with the Clio LawPay integration?
Yeah, so basically, you described it perfectly, right? It's almost like a 3-step process. Step 1, you get your client or you get your prospect, either through referral or whatever it may be, or in the case of using lead gen like Unbundled Attorneys, then you're getting your lead from them. Step 2, they go through Lexicata. You're going to go through the entire intake process from start to finish. Sometimes it's there's a year process. Sometimes it's a day, sometimes it's a week, depending on what type of clients you have. And then from there, you want to manage your actual case, right? That case could be the drafting of a document. That case could be litigation. That case could be whatever you want, but you need to push it to something. We do, obviously you don't have to use Clio in order to use Unbundled and or Lexicata, but we do integrate with Clio. So basically there's going to be a button in that little actions. If you click that actions button, then what will happen is it'll pop up a little thing that says export to Clio. And then what's really nice about this is this will push everything over to Clio that's been gathered in Lexicata. So name, email, phone number, any of the information that's gathered on the intake form, your intake forms, your engagement letters, your notes, your custom fields, anything that was gathered will get pushed over. So again, no data entry. So technically, if you get a lead from Unbundled, send it into Lexicata, then send them an intake form and have them complete it and then push over Clio. Theoretically, you did that entire process without having to do one letter on your keyboard. Literally, all you would have had to do is click around on the mouse and have the system and the client do all the work for you. And then from here, you can send them an invoice, you can send them a bill, you can track the case, whatever you want to do. So it really is a perfect progression from start to finish of a streamlined, efficient, and automated practice where it's still very hands-on, but eliminating mostly all of your admin time, because you can take them from lead to intake to client to getting paid all in one fell swoop without having to do any data entry.
Yeah,
and the first of its kind so far. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to that is that, you know, when you're delivering unbundled services or delivering tasks and preparing documents, completing forms, these types of things, and also, well, I can talk about both, but you know, you have the capacity to use document automation software to be able to get the work done. So the client retains you. Okay, great. Now, how efficiently can I complete the work that I've just been retained for? Obviously, if you're doing it hour by hour, it's less important than if you're delivering, you know, you're doing tasks at a flat rate. You're doing docket preparation, you're doing a specific type of case under a specific rate for a flat rate, for example. So, you know, the efficiencies that come into play with a case management software like Clio that has document automation software built in, or if you have, you know, a tool that uses that, is going to make you a lot more efficient in getting the forms completed, because all the data that was collected in Lexicata that posts into Clio and is in all these fields and records can also populate right into the forms that you're filing and preparing every day, all day long. Those fields can just merge, that client data can just merge right into those forms, so that, you know, 90% of the form is already completed by the time you click a button and you import that form. That form is just right there. So again, it's that streamline, it's that process of, you know, increasing the value because you're spending less time for the same amount of billable time. To be, or, you know, especially if it's a flat rate, you know, you're really increasing the value of each of these clients. And then with Clio payments and LawPay, it just makes it so much easier to enroll a client when you can have them just click a button, put in their credit card, or, you know, you can just take the card right over the phone, put in the LawPay, goes in the trust account, or you can use their automated recurring billing feature that allows them to, if you're going to do a payment plan with them, you can say, how about $100 a week on every Friday? You put that into LawPay system, and that auto bills every single week on Friday, right as they get paid, or every other week, right when they're getting their direct deposit, comes right out the payment plan that you've set up with them. It makes it a lot easier for you, and you can get a lot more confidence in offering payment plans and working with people in this basis when you have the technology underlying it that makes all these things possible with the click of a button, and really reduces the amount of administrative time in order to get these things out the door and interface with clients in this way.
Absolutely. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking to you both. We're coming up on the end of the session. So if anyone is interested in seeing a demo of the solutions together, getting pricing information from Lexdicata, or seeing if leads are available from Unbundled Attorney to jumpstart new clients in your law firm, you can reach them through their websites here. Dave or Michael, do you want to leave our audience with any additional comments or information today?
Yeah, I would say, you know, depending on where you're at in your, you know, learning process of unbundled legal services, if you've already offered this in the past, you know, you can just, you know, come right in and talk to us about taking leads. Or if you haven't, you can also, you know, submit a contact us form. But, you know, I would also encourage you to connect to the podcast and start listening and learning from other attorneys in our network of the ways in which they've been offering these options. I think it's going to give you make it a lot more clear and tangible and practical when you start hearing other attorneys giving examples of actual clients they've worked with, the type of option they offered, what they charged, how they explained it to the client, how they enrolled them, and how these tools all come together. I think that's a really good place to start, especially if you're new, or you can just come on to unbundledattorney.com, hit the contact us button, you know, submit a request, or just call us at our 800 number there on the website, and we'd be happy to speak with you more about what leads we have available in the jurisdictions and practice areas in your region, and start talking a little bit more about how to offer these types of service options in your practice.
Yeah, and for me, Chelsea, one of my favorite quotes I ever heard was, it was the end of an NPR interview that one of the heads of Gmail, Google Mail were having, and they said, don't look at what technology can do just to do what you've been doing already, just better. let it open your eyes to things you never thought were possible, right? So with Unbundled, with Lexicata, with Clio, with LawPay, with any other service that you look for, don't just look for it to like, okay, we're gonna basically take a spreadsheet and now use this instead. You wanna really like come in with an open mind of new things that you can do. And as long as you come in open-minded to new services, new technology and all that kind of stuff, I think everyone will be better as a result. So that's one of my favorite quotes. So I thought I'd just throw that out there.
Oh, love that. Absolutely love that. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you both so much for your time. If anybody has any specific questions or suggestions for future sessions or would like me to pass your information along to the team, if you haven't gone to their website already, you can reach me here. In the meantime, have a great rest of your afternoon or your day. This session will be available indefinitely on the website. And I encourage everybody to reach out to Lexicata or the Unbundled Attorney or both and check out what they have to offer. Thank you all.